everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. I am Danielle from Key Consultants. I have with me Meeta Gargav from Caldere and Associates. Good morning, Meeta.
Good morning, everyone. Today, what we're going to be talking about is something that is very actually close to my heart, which is lead scoring. What is lead scoring and how is it used? The best way I can give you an example is imagine you get a marketing list or you go to a trade show and you get a whole bunch of contacts that go into your leads module. And what lead scoring can do is we can actually use automation to help us decide what is important and who our salespeople are going to target. This is just one example of where it can be used. But and Danielle actually has a fantastic real life example of where lead scoring helped a company. Danielle?
Oh yeah, we had a client a couple years ago. He had come in and they've been using Zoho successfully for quite a while. But one of the places he was having a little difficulty is training his new sales guy. So the example that he used is he had hired a new sales guy and he thought he'd done a little bit of training and thought that was all taken care of. And come to find out, the sales guy had spent 6 months chasing a particular deal. He closed it. It was 50 seats, which would be all well and good, except for this company, their typical sale was 500 to 1,000 seats. So he could not, for the life of him, figure out why the sales rep would spend that much time chasing after a 50-seat deal. And it came down to the fact that the new sales guy, even though he'd been trained in the CRM, he did a little sales training, he had not actually been trained in what was important for this company. So he had a hot lead, he was chasing it till he closed it. He thought he'd done everything correctly, but it turned out that the training for what's important for the company, this specific company, was not actually passed on to him during the training. So one of the things that lead scoring helps with is to identify the metrics that are important to your business, not everyone else's business, not, this is what we did at the last job that I was at, but what is important to our sales process and our lead process.
So let's get into the nitty-gritty of it. So Danielle, if you could just go to Zoho. And we're just going to walk through the example. So before we actually get into how we create it, what we thought we would do is just give you an example that we're going to use. So if you go into the leads module and we go into Ernie, the criteria that we're going to be using is similar to the example that Danielle was talking about. Danielle, what are the criteria?
So in this particular case, for that company, we're just going to go ahead and use his because his was pretty specific. Under the industry, what they work with is, let's see, let me go into edit. In their case, under the industry, they work with a lot of managed service providers, various other agencies, but managed service providers. And then under that, they have industry specific. So inside the managed service providers, industry specific would be hardware WAN or software WAN. And in this case, we're going to say it was a software WAN. And they always like to get what is the vertical, are they or not publicly traded, and the size of the target. These are the metrics that are important to them. So as far as the vertical is concerned, are they simply managed services or do they also do cyber? In this case, we're just going to choose managed services because in their case, if a client already has cybersecurity, or if they already do cybersecurity, they may already have the software that my client is selling, right? So managed services firms, if they're looking to get into cybersecurity, they definitely need my client's software. So therefore, they have a better chance of selling to somebody that simply managed services. Now, if they are cybersecurity, they can sell them some cross-sell or some upsell items that they have, but their best chance for the biggest profit is managed services. The next one they take into consideration is whether or not it's a publicly traded company. In my particular client's case, they have better close ratios on someone that is not publicly traded. So in this case, we're going to say this is false. And then, of course, the size of target. A lot of times you'll say, the bigger the target, the bigger the sale is going to be. However, a client has a sweet spot, right? So if your sweet spot is the mid-size clients, you have a if you find in your business, and which is what he did, he has a better chance of closing it if they are a mid-sized business rather than someone that is super small. They may not be able to afford his software, but also somebody that is gigantic and or publicly traded. They're going to go with one of the high-end solutions where money's no object, price, they don't care about budget, they're just going to go with the high end. So in my client's case, his sweet spot was the middle of the road instead of the bigger clients, right? So we're going to go ahead and fill this out to be what his sweet spot would be. We're going to go ahead and hit save, and what we'll end up seeing is we will be able to see a particular client score by the time we get done. All right. So let's go in and Meeta, talk us through how to set this up.
Okay. So as we've come through and you've known, if you're an admin, you will always go to the cog. So if you on the top right is the admin's
or the gear. I love the Queen's English, but a lot of times I'll have somebody is, oh, you mean the gear? Yeah, the gear. Okay.
Now what we're going to do, sorry, what I was going to say, I was going to show you a shortcut. You can actually find it when you're in those titles, but Danielle, please show the shortcut.
Yeah, so sometimes when you pop in here, it's a little intimidating because there's so many options when you're an admin. So a lot of times what I do is I will just go ahead and search for what I'm looking, and scoring rules comes up as I start typing in scoring. We already have a rule here named leads. I'm going to go ahead and turn this off. We're going to go ahead and create one from scratch. So while we are in here, I'm going to click on new scoring rule, and I'm going to give it a name, and we will call this lead nurturing or lead scoring. Go. And the module, in this particular case, we're going to work with leads. However, I do want you to realize that you can set some scoring rules on all of these different modules, including custom modules in our case. So I have one client, we do some scoring on equipment, another on insurance policies. Is it a whole life policy? Is it a family policy? So they do some scoring on those custom modules. In our case, we're going to stick with leads. And in this description, we are going to say scoring based on verticals. There we go. And they will also ask about the layout. You can have multiple layouts on a particular lead or contact. So for example, if you have inside sales or outside sales, maybe outside sales does not need to see all the fields that inside sales gets privy to, right? Or outside sales may have some additional criteria they have to satisfy. You also have marketing, different layouts for new business development or marketing, right? So in this particular case, we're going to say the scoring goes to all layouts. So no matter what layout you are on, the lead scoring is going to be based on all of those. We'll hit next.
What I will say, guys, this is really important. We keep calling it lead scoring, but the scoring platform is incredibly powerful. And in the real world, you may, for example, have different teams that are looking at different products, different verticals, and you can actually set them up with different scoring rules. So for example, if you have a team that deals with consumers, they may have different rules, they may be looking at different criteria, and you may have another team that is dealing with high worth individuals, and they can have, and this is really powerful.
That's an excellent point. Another reason for having those multiple layouts. So, okay, let's go ahead and pop in some criteria that we have using the specific example we were working on. What we were doing is we were saying that one of our first criteria was based on, what was it?
Vertical, please.
Vertical. Okay. So if we choose the field vertical, and if we say, if the vertical is managed services, like I said, we are able to close more managed services. They're going to be our better chance. So therefore, I'm going to add 10 points. If they are managed services, just right out of the gate, they're going to get 10 points. So I will hit done there. And what was one of the other ones, Meeta?
It was public traded. So type.
Oh yeah, publicly traded. So whether or not this is a publicly traded company, if they are not publicly traded isn't true, then they get another 10 points for that. Sorry, I got confused. Isn't, my bad. And then what was that third field we were working on? Size of target. Okay. And in this particular one, as I said, it's size of target is middle of the road gives them their best chance. So, chasing somebody that is 100 to 200 may not be as profitable because they don't close as many of those. So spend your time on the middle of the road guys, 51 to 100 seats. We will give them 10 points.
Just to be aware, it doesn't all, I mean, we've just done a couple which are always adding. You can subtract as well. And the other thing just to be point about is, database management would sort of say it is good idea to use a pick list or drop down list, whatever you want to call it, for sort of filtering and again for scoring. But you're not just limited to pick list. You can actually have multiple types of fields that you can use.
Perfect. Okay. Now, one of the other things we are going to put in here is you said subtracting points, which is an excellent idea. So, for example, we have our size of target. We have those 3 choices. We could come in here and say, if the size of target is 51 to 100, we're going to add 10 points. However, if the size of the target is 100 to 200, we're actually going to subtract 5 points from them, right? And hit done. So this will be a little bit better on our scoring. The next one we have here is under email. We can actually choose and say, for every email response received from this person, we're going to add 10 points. We could also subtract points, but we're going to add 10 points for this. And then we have a few email insights, right? So if they have opened an email or clicked, that would say that they are very engaged. Actually, this for every email received, I'm actually going to put that down to 5 points. Every email opened, they are incredibly engaged. So I'm going to leave that at about 6 points. Every email clicked, very, very engaged. I'm going to leave that at 10 points. And for every email bounced, we're going to subtract 10 points from them. If I could subtract more, I would. But if the email is bounced, then it may be a soft bounce, but then again, it may be a hard bounce. So they may have given us poor information, incorrect information when they were filling out a form.
You don't have to tick or untick every one of this, but this is just to show you the power of it. And again, one of the things that I find really useful is surveys. We are getting to a point where more and more companies are sending out surveys before they have a full engagement with a lead or a prospect. And similarly, for example, we tend to send out a pre-CRM survey, like, what are you using? What are your pain points? And again, people engage. The whole point is the more engagement we can have, the higher the score.
Exactly. So in this case, for every survey responded, we're going to give them 10 points. However, if they just visited a survey but did not necessarily fill it out, we're at least going to give them, an A for effort. We'll give them a couple points for at least visiting. However, we may need to look at those KPIs as well, those metrics as well, because maybe our survey is too daunting. Maybe there's too many questions on our survey. So even though they're not filling it out, that still gives us useful information, useful feedback. So as you said, we do not necessarily have to fill out all of these. As for campaigns, that's a completely different webinar. So we're going to leave that blank, and Zoho Sign, that's going to be a different webinar as well. So Meeta, are you happy with this? Did you want to do anything on calls or just leave those blank?
No, again, I just want to sort of say is if we are going to be talking about calls, you can actually put points against these if these are important. But this is just to, as I say, we're just at the moment just showing you a quick overview. So if we just click on save, and we can actually take it from there.
Perfect. Now, this one that comes up, you saw when we popped in here, I already had one. I'd set it up for a meetup demo that we had done a couple months ago. And I'd already had some scoring rules against some of these, and I'd turned that off. So this particular box asks you, do you want to go back and update old records, or do you just want to use this new scoring and continue updating what is coming in new? In our case, we're going to update old records because we've implemented this scoring. We actually want to go through and score all of our items and see where they land. So there we go. Scoring rules updated and scored 3 particular leads. Perfect.
Okay, so if we go back into the lead that we were talking about, you can actually see if we had made some changes, we can actually see what the value is. So where do we see the value? So Danielle, if you hide it, there you go. You've got the leads, and you can actually see if you had multiple different scoring rules set up, you can see what the scoring rules are for the different.
Yeah, this is the one when we first came in, I turned it off, but I did not delete it. So this would have been the old scoring rules that we set up. And this is the new scoring rules that we just set up. So he ends up with 30 points here. And this is derived from, these are our industry, and our particular vertical got X amount of points, publicly traded got X amount, and size of target got X amount. If I were to come in here and this particular person was in the 101 to 200 range, I'm going to go ahead and save that. And then when we go to look at our lead scoring,
can you see it's just changed?
It did.
Right.
I hit the refresh because I'm so used to it, but it did actually refresh on its own. So we can see in here that I actually have a negative, and it's taken our positive from 20. It took out the negative, which was that size, the larger size, and it has a total score of 15 here. So is there anything else in here you wanted to change, Meeta?
Nope. It's very easy, very simple, and it's a very powerful tool. I recommend everybody have a look and play and go through your processes and see what you can actually do to help in any, whether it's operations or whether it's, in this particular case, we were talking about the sales team.
All right, perfect. Well, that is going to be our, there's also configuring multiple scores here. There was a little knowledge base article that I pulled up on this as well. Why would you need multiple scoring rules and the benefits of? So this is a very good one. We're going to drop this into the notes, show notes, and you'll be able to access all of these items that are here with some step-by-step instructions along with our video tutorial. So thank you guys very much for joining us today. And I look forward to speaking with you guys on our next webinar. We'll pick out some more Zoho CRM admin tips and tricks and release the next one next week. Thank you.